Let's talk Tobago.
Hello, and we are back for yet another episode of Let's Talk Tobago. This week we are coming to you from the best, yes, I said the best village in Tobago, Blackrock. It is my hometown and it is home to this beautiful fort, Fort Bennett. So at this time we're going to check out the lineup of stories for this week. I'm Davia Chambers and our program starts right now. So what do we have to share with you? Well, we tell you about the Commonwealth Youth Games 2023. We take you to Tema's 25th anniversary celebrations, and we'll tell you who won Tadco's Men Can Cook competition. Let's Talk Tobago. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
When the quarantine thing done and everybody touch road, a brown skin. Girl, I wanna rock you and lift up your head and hold it up high.
Get your sporting gear ready because a major sporting event is coming to Trinidad and Tobago. And yes, Tobago will be a part of the action. The Commonwealth Youth Games will be hosted in this country from August 4th to 11th. And a local organizing committee came across to the island to tell us what we can expect.
Final preparations are moving at pace to host the 2023 Commonwealth Youth Games events in Tobago. The games run from August 4th to 11th. The Tobago House of Assembly has established a task force to assist the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee in organizing the event.
All of the first responding agencies and a number of volunteers, experienced and otherwise, who would lead the multiple teams that we have to put in place. You would imagine we'd have a medical team, transportation, hospitality, ceremonies, and the like, for the 4 disciplines and the closing ceremony of the entire games that will take place in Tobago.
Facilities are being prepped at 4 venues to host specific disciplines.
Blackrock for the construction of a beach sports venue, that will actually, post games, be able to handle a number of beach sports. The Shore Park football field where rugby will take place, the Shore Park Cultural Complex where netball will take place, and the beach and environs of Buku where the triathlon will take place.
Heightened security will be observed during the games, taglined Trinbago 2023.
We're really excited for the games in terms of participation in Tobago, because this allows showcasing what Tobago has to offer, not only in terms of venues, but leaving a legacy where Blackrock is concerned.
We certainly want to make sure that we follow all the rules and see the successful execution of the games, all the attendant matters. We are going to do everything in our power to make sure that those things are in place.
More than 1,000 athletes from 72 countries have registered so far for the games. Recruitment of volunteers continues, with several events to be staged right here in Tobago. Visit commonwealthsports.com for more details. I'm Ryan McCool for Let's Talk Tobago.
You know, we really can't stop a natural disaster, but our first approach is usually to minimize the impact. Omdara Mills is going to tell us now about some new flood early warning systems that have been installed.
Worrying scenes of last year's flooding in Scarborough and environs. This year, the Tobago Emergency Management Agency, Tema, is staying a step ahead with 2 new community flood early warning systems at Bacalet River and Crooks River. They were funded by the European Union for Humanitarian Aid and implemented by the United Nations Development Programme.
These two stream gorges were part of a two-year project started in 2021, which forms an important part of UNDP's SIDS offer, Small Island Development States, which aims to build resilient development pathways in areas such as climate action, blue economy, and digitization.
This action responds to the priority of DG ECHO to strengthen national capacities to forecast man-made and natural hazards by investing on early warning systems and preparedness. The scope is to provide to communities and government with earlier and more accurate information, so to allow the implementation of faster and earlier anticipatory action protocols before a disaster strikes.
It will give us greater chance and availability to actually anticipate, prepare, and respond more effectively, especially in Scarborough, which, for those who remember, when it came the last time when you're watching by Crooks River where water cleared the banks, the port had to shut down operations, vehicles stuck, businesses, Scotiabank, all of them, some relocated, some could not start back up their business. So what we have to do now that we have this piece of equipment, not only maintain it properly, but also use it to the max.
With these two systems, we will be able to improve on the timeliness of our response. This will certainly have an impact on schools, on traffic management, on communities and people being able to safeguard assets and homes.
The flood early warning systems will support data collection so that emergency responders can better assess the need for evacuation. I'm Amadara Mills for Let's Talk Tobago.
Now, this fort was established by the Dutch between 1628 and 1636, a pretty long time ago, right? Obviously. But what was also established a long time ago is the Tobago Emergency Management Agency, or Tema. Tema recently celebrated its 25th anniversary. So at this time, Ryan McCool will tell us exactly how the department celebrated.
Today we gather to honor and recognize the hard work, dedication, and unwavering commitment of the men and women who have been instrumental in shaping this organization into what it is today. Over the past 25 years, it would have been grown from strength to strength, coordinating the essential services to the people of Tobago.
I just want to recognize some of the agencies, who have been with us over the years. I call them very, very important and strong affiliates. Tema is just not what came out of the Executive Council that established the body of people that are now working. Tema goes beyond that. It speaks to the partners. It's like a confluence of two great streams that influence what disaster management looks like in Tobago, the disaster management systems that fits into the national disaster mechanism.
As we celebrate the silver anniversary of this Diamond Standard Award-winning agency, we encourage the administration to see Tema not just as a department of the OCS, but as an institution that is of the result of over 60 years of effort that brings you to what you see here today.
Tema in times of pandemic has played a pivotal role in our response to those pandemic. And Tema continue to respond 365 days of the year, 24 hours of the day. My congratulations to the Tema family on making it to a quarter of a century. This is indeed an admirable feat, and I am confident that the best of Tema is yet to come.
There's an interesting story in the Bible of when the disciples faced the storm at sea. It was at 25 furlongs that they spotted Jesus coming to their rescue on the water to assure them that they will be safe. When he said to them, "Be not afraid." 25. All of you hard-working staff, I want, on behalf of the island of Tobago, to say thank you. Thank you for your service.
We have to take a break right now, but after these messages, we return with more stories. Let's Talk Tobago. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
When the quarantine thing done and everybody touch road, a brown skin. Girl, I wanna wrap you up. Lift up your head and hold it up high.
If you're looking to reset and relax, then Fort Bennett is a great location. So now I'm going to tell you about a men can cook competition, and we all know Tobago men can cook. Well, 30 talents took part in the Tobago Agribusiness Development Company, or TADCO, Men Can Cook competition. Let's see who is really the best of the best.
We had used the calabash and plated our soup with callaloo soup. The calabash also helps to infuse other flavors so that the dish was really excellent. For the upscale dish, we did a cassava au gratin that was plated in a nice ramekin. Also, we did a very beautiful, lovely rainbow vegetables, and we had also grilled chicken with fish that was wrapped with banana leaf and seasoned really nicely and put in the oven to bake off.
30 men donned their aprons to vie for the TADCO Men Can Cook title, but it was the engine room who earned the top spot with 294 points. Team Settlements was second with 255 points and a special prize for the most hygienic team, while Sweet Hand Crew Glen Road finished third with 253 points. It was a day of good vibes and light-hearted fun, which brought out supporters, families and visitors to the Shore Park Food Hub.
I think it's a very good initiative on the part of TADCO. I appreciate it very much because it showcases what the men can do, and I always say men can cook because my husband is the cook in our home. He's the main cook.
We need more of this in Tobago. Tobago men, we are known for cooking good food, sweet hand food. I'm not saying the women cannot cook, them time will come. But I mean, men are normally known to cook food for harvest and big sessions and things, right? So putting this together, for me, is a very great experience for the men in Tobago.
I think it's a great initiative. I think that more of it is actually warranted on the island because men can really cook. That's the truth. My husband is a chef. I enjoy his meals. It's also a good opportunity for young boys to look into or go into the culinary field.
I am quite happy with the turnout. I'm quite happy about the amount of men that are here actually. This definitely will foster growth in terms of communities and building relationships, especially among fathers and sons and stuff like that.
The event is also intended to showcase TADCO's products and promote the food hub as a viable venue for vendors and patrons. Look out for more exciting cooking challenges from the Tobago Agribusiness Development Company. I'm Amadara Mills for Let's Talk Tobago.
Preservation of culture is quite important, so we're going to leave Fort Bennett at this moment to head right across the street to Corland Bush Race. We're going to take you to the Williams family so you can see their Good Friday tradition.
It's a historical tradition for the Williams family of Blackrock to host a traditional breakfast on Good Friday every year. The day starts at 6 a.m. with the rising of the sun and this custom.
You see, long ago now, when fowl lay, and they could have used the egg because they never used to put egg in fridge and them thing they said the thing that sees the thing that it wouldn't rise. So that is why they say you must get a fresh egg like if the fowl lay day before yesterday, but don't put it in the fridge. And then when you're ready for use it, but make sure 6 o'clock when the sun rising, and it thing the egg, it fast as the sun coming up, that coming up too. And use the white alone of the egg. If the yellow go inside it, it would not raise. It does be very good. You're seeing your danger. If you're going to bring a wedding, you're going to bring a church, you're going to bring you coming out from the church with the wedding, it will give you down to a funeral. All like that. Right? So that is why they say many people are glad to see that. Imagine a white lady from America call me and ask me if I doing anything today.
Long time you didn't get stove, so that was the stove. You gotta get the fire, blow the fire on top. That how they used to cook long time. You didn't get no stove and oven, so they never find a way. 3 stone they call it. Me just change it to the blocks.
It was excellent. The food was amazing. I got cocoa, and the nice thing about the tea was there was this oil film on the top, which to me was unique and it was real nice.
The Williams family continues to pass the tradition down from generation to generation to ensure that the culture is preserved. I'm Megan Wallace for Let's Talk Tobago.
And that's a wrap. That's how we bring this week's edition of Let's Talk Tobago to a close. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Davia Chambers. On behalf of all of us at the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly, do have a safe and enjoyable week. Remember to like our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. See you next week.
Let's talk Tobago. You're watching Let's Talk Tobago.
Hello, and we are back for yet another episode of Let's Talk Tobago. This week we are coming to you from the best, yes, I said the best village in Tobago, Blackrock. It is my hometown and it is home to this beautiful fort, Fort Bennett. So at this time we're going to check out the lineup of stories for this week. I'm Davia Chambers and our program starts right now. So what do we have to share with you? Well, we tell you about the Commonwealth Youth Games 2023. We take you to Tema's 25th anniversary celebrations, and we'll tell you who won Tadco's Men Can Cook competition. Let's Talk Tobago. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
When the quarantine thing done and everybody touch road, a brown skin. Girl, I wanna wrap you up. Lift up your head and hold it up high.
get your sporting gear ready because a major sporting event is coming to Trinidad and Tobago. And yes, Tobago will be a part of the action. The Commonwealth Youth Games will be hosted in this country from August 4th to 11th. And a local organizing committee came across to the island to tell us what we can expect.
Final preparations are moving at pace to host the 2023 Commonwealth Youth Games events in Tobago. The games run from August 4th to 11th. The Tobago House of Assembly has established a task force to assist the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee in organizing the event.
All of the first responding agencies and a number of volunteers, experienced and otherwise, who would lead the multiple teams that we have to put in place. You would imagine we'd have a medical team, transportation, hospitality, ceremonies, and the like, for the 4 disciplines and the closing ceremony of the entire games that will take place in Tobago.
Facilities are being prepped at 4 venues to host specific disciplines.
BlackRock for the construction of a beach sports venue, that will actually, post games, be able to handle a number of beach sports. The Shore Park football field, where rugby will take place. The Shore Park Cultural Complex, where netball will take place. And the beach and environs of Buku, where the triathlon will take place.
Heightened security will be observed during the games, taglined Trinbago 2023.
We are really excited for the games in terms of participation in Tobago, because this allows showcasing what Tobago has to offer, not only in terms of venues, but leaving a legacy where BlackRock is concerned.
We certainly want to make sure that we follow all the rules and see the successful execution of the games, all the attendant matters. We are going to do everything in our power to make sure that those things are in place.
More than 1,000 athletes from 72 countries have registered so far for the games. Recruitment of volunteers continues, with several events to be staged right here in Tobago. Visit commonwealthsports.com for more details. I'm Ryan McCool for Let's Talk Tobago.
You know, we really can't stop a natural disaster, but our first approach is usually to minimize the impact. Omidara Mills is going to tell us now about some new flood early warning systems that have been installed.
Worrying scenes of last year's flooding in Scarborough and environs. This year, the Tobago Emergency Management Agency, Tema, is staying a step ahead with 2 new community flood early warning systems at Bacalet River and Crooks River. They were funded by the European Union for Humanitarian Aid and implemented by the United Nations Development Programme.
These 2 stream gauges were part of a 2-year project started in 2021, which forms an important part of UNDP's SIDS offer, Small Island Development States, which aims to build resilient development pathways in areas such as climate action, blue economy, and digitization.
This action responds to the priority of DG ECHO to strengthen national capacities to forecast man-made and natural hazards by investing on early warning systems and preparedness. The scope is to provide to communities and government with earlier and more accurate information, so to allow the implementation of faster and earlier anticipatory action protocols before a disaster strikes.
It will give us greater chance and availability to actually anticipate, prepare, and respond more effectively, especially in Scarborough, which, for those who remember, when it came the last time when you're watching by Crooks River where water cleared the banks, the port had to shut down operations, vehicles stuck, businesses, Scotiabank, all of them, some relocated, some could not start back up their business. So what we have to do now that we have this piece of equipment, not only maintain it properly, but also use it to the max.
With these two systems, we will be able to improve on the timeliness of our response. This will certainly have an impact on schools, on traffic management, on communities and people being able to safeguard assets and homes.
The flood early warning systems will support data collection so that emergency responders can better assess the need for evacuation. I'm Amadara Mills for Let's Talk Tobago.
Now, this fort was established by the Dutch between 1628 and 1636, a pretty long time ago, right? Obviously. But what was also established a long time ago is the Tobago Emergency Management Agency, or Tema. Tema recently celebrated its 25th anniversary. So at this time, Ryan McCool will tell us exactly how the department celebrated.
Today we gather to honor and recognize the hard work, dedication, and unwavering commitment of the men and women who have been instrumental in shaping this organization into what it is today. Over the past 25 years, it would have been grown from strength to strength, coordinating the essential services to the people of Tobago.
I just want to recognize some of the agencies, who have been with us over the years. I call them very, very important and strong affiliates. Tema is just not what came out of the Executive Council that established the body of people that are now working. Tema goes beyond that. It speaks to the partners. It's like a confluence of two great streams that influence what disaster management looks like in Tobago, the disaster management systems that fits into the national disaster mechanism.
As we celebrate the silver anniversary of this Diamond Standard Award-winning agency, we encourage the administration to see Tema not just as a department of the OCS, but as an institution that is of the result of over 60 years of effort that brings you to what you see here today.
Tema in times of pandemic has played a pivotal role in our response to those pandemic. And Tema continue to respond 365 days of the year, 24 hours of the day. My congratulations to the Tema family on making it to a quarter of a century. This is indeed an admirable feat, and I am confident that the best of Tema is yet to come.
There's an interesting story in the Bible of when the disciples faced the storm at sea. It was at 25 furlongs that they spotted Jesus coming to their rescue on the water to assure them that they will be safe. When he said to them, "Be not afraid." 25. All of you hard-working staff, I want on behalf of the island of Tobago to say thank you. Thank you for your service.
We have to take a break right now, but after these messages, we return with more stories. Let's Talk Tobago. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
When the quarantine thing done and everybody touch road, a brown skin. Girl, I wanna wrap you up. Lift up your head and hold it up high.
If you're looking to reset and relax, then Fort Bennett is a great location. So now I'm going to tell you about a Men Can Cook competition, and we all know Tobago men can cook. Well, 30 talents took part in the Tobago Agribusiness Development Company, or TADCO, Men Can Cook competition. Let's see who is really the best of the best.
Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning. Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning. Welcome to Youth Wednesdays on the Tobago Updates Morning Show, your one and only Youth Wednesday show at the Tobago Updates. We are live here in Portmore, Scarborough, Tobago. And my name is Dwayne Nurse, your favorite youth host, and I'm joined with
Luke Trim, and good morning to everyone joining us. And for those of you taking your morning meditation, those of you viewing us as you just woke up, and even to those of you tuning in as you drive on the road, thank you so much for choosing Tobago Updates to start your mornings on the right note. So, Dwayne, what's been happening in the space thus far?
Well, all I can remember is just I'm still in the jazz experience, but we also saw, coming out from the whole political space, the response, still afresh in people's mind by the Honorable Chief Secretary, given the op-ed that was posted by the Honorable Prime Minister, and that is still reeling. What else has been happening on your end, through your eyes? Let me.
Well, on my end, Dwayne, not much has been happening. I haven't been noting much of what has been happening because the politics itself has been having us so consumed and having us on our toes, having us, thinking what's gonna happen next. But in terms of that, I would have seen that Bishop's High School has been performing in the area of sport, so we really want to congratulate them for their strides. I'm not sure if you tuned into that. The basketball team would have, they made a lot of strides. They would have made a lot of strides. So we want to say a huge congratulations to that team at Bishop's High School. And what else doing? Tell us. You seem to be in the know these days.
Well, no, not quite. Not quite. I've been drenched in work and so on. But I know that the upcoming these games with netball and volleyball and beach football coming up soon. Something to very much anticipate. And I know that. I think this weekend there is also Redemption in Trinidad. That's the big reggae show. I know Brother Luke Trim will definitely be there. I don't need to talk business. You know how it is dub it here at Tobago Updates. We share each other's business out of love and respect.
Out of love and respect. And for viewers, I know you all are noticing it's just both Dwayne and I here. Kaylee's not here with us this morning, but Kaylee, wherever you are viewing us, I just want to say a good morning to you. And I hope you're staying safe and having all the fun you deserve.
All right. So, that's it for this morning. And we want to head over to Luke. You take it away for news in 90 seconds.
Thank you, Dwayne. So this is your news in 90 seconds for Wednesday, the 3rd of May, 2023. Minister of Works and Transportation, Rohan Sinanan, agreed to meet with the Secretary of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development, Trevor James, to discuss the operations of the licensing division in Tobago. Last month, James wrote to the minister requesting a meeting regarding the joint road traffic enforcement and education exercise between April 13th to the 19th. Chief Secretary Fali Augustine criticized the action, claiming that it had adverse social and economic consequences. At the same time, Minister Sinanan defended the operations, arguing that they had every right to conduct exercises in Tobago. In other news, the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development completed repairs on the Pirates Bay Road. Last year's extreme weather conditions caused several landslips along the road, rendering it impassable for vehicular traffic. As part of its road rehabilitation program in the dry season, the division listed the Pirates Bay Road as one of its priority projects. The crew also took the opportunity to widen the road in some areas around corners for easier navigation. And nationally, the opposition is concerned about the upcoming presentation of the mid-year budget review by Finance Minister Com Imbert. At a press conference yesterday, MP Davindran Tanku said despite there being over 418 billion in expenditure, the economy remains substantially smaller than when the PNM came into power in 2015. He attributed the economic crisis to every action taken by the PNM government and rejected all attempts attempts by the government to mislead and misdirect the public's attention from the true state of the economy. Tanku also accused the government of misleading the country with false claims of growth while refusing to answer questions about expenditure. I am Luke Trim, and this was your news in 90 seconds. Back to you, Dwayne.
All right. Thank you very much, Brother Luke. You know how we do it here on Tobago Updates. We must highlight our birthdays for this morning. And I don't want to be wrong, but I believe we only have 2 birthdays this morning.
Okay, yes, it appears so, Dwayne.
Right. So first, we have Mr. Marilyn David. A happy birthday goes out to you from the Tobago Updates family. And who do we have next?
Next on our list, we have Miss Sophia Cooper. You know, we're sending out a huge happy birthday to you, Miss Cooper, and I hope you enjoy your day today.
All right, and that's it for the birthdays this morning. We want to go straight over to the rundown. And first, we have Miss Ioma Strawn George, awardee of the Performing Arts from the Tobago Youth Awards. She'll be coming to chat with us this morning. And we also have this morning to discuss the Society for Inherited and Severe Blood Disorder. Dr. Victor Wheeler and others, and Brother Luke Trim will be doing the interview with us this morning. And in between that, we have a surprise interview this morning. We don't want to share with them just yet, but it is a very relevant and pertinent topic that we need to properly ventilate on the Tobago Youth Wednesday show this morning. So that will be it for our rundown this morning. We want to thank you guys for viewing and watching us. We have to tell them to
share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.
Tobago is known as the Nature Island, where visitors and residents enjoy clean air, expansive water courses, and a picture-perfect environment. The island holds the honor of having the oldest protected rainforest in the Western Hemisphere. Mandated to protect Tobago's natural resources, especially in the east and northeast, the Tobago Reforestation and Watershed Rehabilitation Program is a special-purpose, non-profit company established by the Tobago House of Assembly to plan programs and projects to ensure our pristine island maintains its reputation. Falling under the Division of Food Security, Natural Resources, the Environment and Sustainable Development, Secretary Natisha Charles Pantin says conservation and preservation of our rainforest and watershed are of utmost importance.
The natural resources of Tobago, we have to protect the forest because it attracts rain, and that is the primary function of the Mainridge Forest Reserve, which takes up about mostly the entire island, right? So we have to continue conservation efforts towards our own existence for us to get clean air, clean water, filtered water, and to also protect the reef.
In 2023, Tobago's Mainridge Forest Reserve will achieve 247 years of protected status.
If you walk through the main forest, as a matter of fact, forget walking. If you drive through, you screw down your glass. How do you feel when you go through the reserve? There's a microclimate. You have a totally different atmosphere when you go through the Mainridge.
Preserving our Mainridge means preserving the health, wellness, and beauty of Tobago.
Yes, be careful.
Honey, I feel I'm going to start to cook, yes, because these children are hungry now, right?
Oh, shucks. Oh. These plugs, oh my gosh.
Hey, Rizak, hey, come from there. Come from there.
What's going on in here?
Oh God, I should have buy exhibition, boy. What would you do if this happened to you? Dial 990 in case of fire emergencies and always have a serviceable fire extinguisher ready and available at all times.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Youth Wednesdays on the Tobago Updates Morning Show. You're viewing us live here in Portmore, Scarborough, Tobago. This morning we are highlighting our youth awardee in the segment of performing arts. And this morning to highlight this awardee, her name is Ioma Strong George, right? And she hails all the way from
Mount Pleasant.
Mount Pleasant. And good morning and welcome.
Oh, thank you very much.
And she's a bit nervous, guys, but you know she could handle herself. It's a pleasure to meet you this morning.
Oh, same here.
All right. And just tell us about yourself.
Okay, so as he said, my name is Ioma Strong George. I am the student of Mason Hall Government Secondary School, a child rights ambassador for Trinidad and Tobago, a 15-year-old singer-songwriter, a recording artist, and much more.
All right, that's a jack of all trades, might I say. Yeah. You received this award, and you're into music. You just highlighted that you're a singer and songwriter. What inspired you to get into music?
Well, in my early introduction to secondary school, I was bullied, and I channeled all my pains and hurt into music, which was something that I love. Growing up, I grew up into a musical family, which helped me a lot to channel all my pain. My parents, they discovered that I could sing also.
At what age did you discover that you could sing?
Well, I recorded my first song at the age of 11, but it was written around 9 years old. So that was like after I recorded it, and yeah, that's basically it.
All right. So you said that you use your music and singing and songwriting. Do you play any instrument at all?
Well, I'm learning how to play the guitar, and I want to play the piano also. So,
okay, yeah. Good. So you were a recipient of this award. How did you feel to know that the Tobago honors your talent and recognizes your talent?
Well, I find that is really a good initiative for young people also. I really thank Tobago and the award that they made for me also.
Right.
I really am humbled to know that, and I'm humbled to know that a lot.
Right. And besides that, what was the feeling like to know that, I got this award, and how did your parents feel? What was the atmosphere like at home when you learned that you were going to receive this award?
Well, definitely the atmosphere was real nice. I loved it. I knew when I didn't know that I was nominated for the category. I also was nominated for People's Choice Awards, but on the spot I knew this. I was flabbergasted. I had so many emotions. Yeah, I was blown away.
Yes. All right. But you said you're a songwriter, and just share with us, the viewers, what is your genre? What genre of music are you into?
Well, I sing various genres, and the main genre that I sing, is Afrobeats. I just love Afrobeats, yeah.
All right.
So I just want to discover my generation, my ancestors, and know more about myself.
All right. And did you perform at the Tobago Awards at all? Any of those songs?
No, I didn't have the opportunity to do so.
But if not there, where did you perform, if at all? And were you given any opportunity for?
I performed at the Tomac Festival.
Right.
That was when they had the Lord Nelson. They were featuring Lord Nelson and Kes. And I was supposed to perform at the Burna Boys concert, but due to the inclement weather, I wasn't able to do such.
That's great. That's a lot of great opportunities. But what song did you play? Did you sing? Sorry, at the first stint?
Oh, well, I actually sang my first Afrobeat song, which was Jolly. That was a song, it's a feel-good song basically, telling you to let go all your problems. And I also sing Tinku.
Yeah,
that's a song.
Can you tell us about, the songs? What inspired you and is inspired the name rather, and some of the lyrics of this song?
Well, basically, I know how we have went into the COVID-19, which was when the COVID-19 was spreading exponentially, and I said, you know what, let me make a song featuring my producer, Makrimi Anthony from Nigeria. So big up yourself, Makrimi.
All right.
And yeah, that was basically a song that came out from the tiredness and just being locked up and staying inside. So I spend my time wisely.
Right, it's good that you're inspiration for young persons who might be going through a lot besides bullying and even dealing with a lot of trauma at school, at home, etc. And it's good to channel that back into something positive. But before we go, or before we end this interview rather, I want you to sing a song for us.
Oh, definitely.
That'll be great to hear your talent live here on the Tobago Updates Morning Show.
Okay, so I'll be...
It's Makrimi.
Tema, the song is Mom of Africa.
Mama Africa, oh, it's a young boy. Mama Africa, yeah. Mama Africa, Nuri Chira. Mama Africa, yeah. Mama Africa, Nuri Chidubem. No give me kelego. Pico test that to the move. Stop the look bingo. Hey, them go look anyway. Zobo all around. Yeah, say around the town. Yeah, oi, 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 oi. Mama Africa, yeah. Mama Africa, Nuri Chiba. Mama Africa, yeah. Mama Africa.
All right. And that was Ioma Strawn George. Thank you very much for that song. And what is the name of that song?
The name of that song is Mama Africa.
Mama Africa. And the proof is in the pudding, guys. So I want to thank you very much for being here this morning. I want to encourage you to further your craft and even make this your career and put Tobago on the map and yourself. Make yourself a very renowned person, and I'm proud of you as a young person. So continue to keep doing what you're doing, and I want to thank you for being here this morning. But before we go, we have to tell the viewers to share the live. So we say share the live, share the live, share the live. Right? So we're going over to our next segment, our next interview, and this is how we do it here in Tobago Updates. We want to help you we want to tell you to share the live, share the live, share the live.
Share the live, share the live.
All right, we'll be right back.
How it's gonna go. They better look up and look, 'cause this is your show, and everybody's gonna know. Say it to them once again. They better look up and look. This is your show, and everybody's gonna know. That's how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show. October will never be better. With Tobago, carnival fever. Okay, passage and come on over.
Our national borders, our first step to security, but a possible access point for guns, drugs, crime. If it does not look right, do the right thing. Call Crime Stoppers anonymously. 800-8477. Report possible border crime.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning.
And welcome back to Youth Wednesdays. This morning we have a very much of a surprise guest this morning. We want to delve into the political arena this morning, and this morning we want to talk about Tobago's business, or don't mind Tobago's business rather. And to have this discussion this morning, we have none other than the Honorable Chief Secretary, Farley Chavez Augustine, and the interim political leader of the Tobago's People's Party. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Thank you both for having me.
Right, and this morning, I'm not the only one going to be doing this interview, but I'm doing this interview with my brother Luke.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Chief.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Trim. How are you going?
I'm good.
All right, fantastic.
Right. So you're here because we saw the public banter or the back and forth between you and the Honorable Prime Minister, and you made a post that came to much of a surprise to many of us. Care to explain what spawned that comment from such a person as yourself, an honorable person like yourself?
Well, good morning again, Tobago. Good morning to those who are viewing. Sometimes you have to just give a one-liner, one statement, to put things into perspectives and to put people in their rightful place, so to speak. And the statement is very clear, very logical. And the statement is also backed up by a video and 2 photographs from Act 40 of 1996, the 5th schedule. And when you look at the law, there are several things that fall under the remit of the central government and thereby the Prime Minister that are left completely unhandled, and then things for which he has no remit, no position in law whatsoever, he is trying to have a position on. And so I needed to remind the Prime Minister that his business really and truly includes the 6th schedule. So when we have police stations falling apart, when we have prisons having to be relocated because it was in a bad condition, and I had to intervene and send works and spend teaching money to repair the prisons so that Tobago prisoners can be here, so that families can have contact with them, so that our prisoners don't get corrupted and end up in a pipeline for criminal activity. That's his business. When we look at the autonomy bill that is lagging before Parliament, that removed several of the things that Tobagonians said they want in an autonomy legislation, that's his business. When we look at what's happening with our fire stations, I saw representatives of the union in Tobago recently talking about the state of the stations and their tenders. In particular, what's happening down at Crown Point, what's happening at Scarborough, trying to find about 350,000 to help them complete the works in Scarborough, but that really and truly is his business.
Right.
And so ever so often we have to remind the Prime Minister and the central government what their business is and get them in line, because if you don't, you will have situations where the little bits of autonomy that we do have, we will not enjoy them, because those are the ones they will seek to mess with while ignoring what their business really is.
Right. So you know, we want to go back a bit, because many of the viewers might just have seen the post and be like, wow, the Honorable Chief Secretary is disrespectful. You know, and I want to presume that this was as a consequence of the op-ed that was posted. If yes, right, you know, were you angry? And more than that, do you find your comment disrespectful? Because many prominent persons in this space are saying how the Chief Secretary could use the word damn in towards the Prime Minister.
Well,
you know?
In my world, respect is earned. In my world, respect is a two-way street. In my world, respect isn't automatic because of age. In my world, he is an equal. In my world, regardless of his age, the fact that he's the second highest ranking person on the order of precedence, as set by cabinet, in my world, respect must be a two-way street. And if you don't trade your lamb-like character for a lion, people will walk all over you. And what I see is a great deal of hypocrisy pervading the space. Hypocrisy in that we have had instances where former Chief Secretary, PNM Chief Secretary, will lash out against UNC Prime Minister and UNC and at the time People's Partnership for coming to Tobago to give out hampers, for giving out food cards in Tobago, for doing social programs in Tobago. There's even on record from a Chief Sec London saying to the then Prime Minister that she has no authority to call an election in Tobago. And yet we have a bunch of red hypocrites running around in typical sycophantic style, encouraging the trampling upon Act 40 of 1996. That cannot be allowed, and sometimes you have to forcefully push people back in line and remind them of what their business really is, so that they can remain focused on the task at hand. And I do that respectfully, and some may view disrespectfully. But as I said, respect is a two-way street that goes both ways.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right, so Chief, Trinidad and Tobago has been regarded as a twin island. You know, we are under one republic. However, you know, conversations of building an autonomous Tobago has always been in this space. So my question is, do you support, you know, the call for secession from Trinidad and Tobago? Do you think that Tobago can stand on its own as an autonomous island? If it becomes autonomous.
Well, I have never been a proponent of secession, and we can have a twin island republic with devolution of powers. This is nothing new. There is no magic to it. It exists elsewhere within the Commonwealth. In St. Kitts Nevis, they have a federation, for example. In the United Kingdom, they have broad, sweeping devolution powers. So even as we speak, Scotland is part of the United Kingdom, but Scotland can pass its own laws. Scotland can set its own taxation policies. Scotland can hold a referendum if it wants to determine whether it wants to actually secede or not. Scotland has these broad, sweeping powers while they remain a part of the United Kingdom. And outside of the Commonwealth, you have federations existing. You have other examples of how powers can be devolved from the center to outlying regions. So that doesn't in any way challenge the notion of there being a twin island republic. Let me also hasten to add that this notion that there is a unitary state, that does not exist anywhere in the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago. It doesn't exist anywhere in our laws. And it just doesn't exist as a legal concept. But what we seek to do is to have powers devolved so that Tobago can take care of its socio-cultural, socio-economic needs and its development trajectory. And let me give you some basic examples. And one of the reasons why we pushback, and Tobagonians by and large pushback against the autonomy bill that was proposed, is because it was short on some ideals. And simple example, if you live on an island where if you want to have a marine park, you have to ask someone else to set up a marine park for you, and more than 2 years pass and it can't happen, then clearly your development is not being considered as priority. For us in Tobago, our environment is considered priority. It's part of our tourism product, it's part of our industry, and so we need to have established legislation so we can manage marine parks around the island. But since 2020 November, we sent a bill down to Parliament for them to consider it. We are now in 2023, and it has not even been considered to the point where it reached the Parliament floor for debate. And the point is, Tobago's development continues to be stymied by virtue of the fact that we really and truly do not have the kind of autonomy to make the moves we want to make. And we have to be sure when we are getting the autonomy that we are getting what Tobago needs for its socio-cultural, socio-economic development. That's also quite critical, because what if you're not careful, what will happen is that somebody will give you a half-picked duck, as we say. They will give you a 6 for 9, and then you will realize that the autonomy you thought you were getting, you really did not get. And that's what you don't want. And that's why many in the space have made an argument about defining Tobago in the bill, defining Tobago waters in the bill, ensuring that Tobago has legislative authority over some of the waters that exist around the island, or sufficient enough so that we can, develop the blue economy. All of these things are part of the broader conversation that we have to have. And so all of this about the back and forth between the Prime Minister and I, it wasn't much of a back and forth, because I just gave one line and that's it for me. So if the Prime Minister wishes he could fight upon cuss on his own, I gave one line and that's sufficient. But the overarching issue at hand is really Tobago's autonomy. And the question of Tobago's autonomy is not necessarily about secession. Now, I will tell you two things. One, there are some Tobagonians who believe in secession, and that's their right so to believe. And number two, I am afraid that if Tobago doesn't get the autonomy it desires in my generation, the generation that comes after will be far more radical and might very well believe in disrupting the Twin Island Republic for secession. And my strongest advice would be, let us get that internal self-government arrangement right so that we can prevent future generations from wanting something much more radical than my generation desires.
All right, Chief. And in this space, I don't think much people are aware of how all legislative bodies work. So when they hear about, secession and building an autonomous Tobago, they view it as, Trinidad is our central government. That's where Tobago get their money from. If we are to, quote unquote, pathways from Trinidad, where are we getting our money from? So the question now in this space is, what resources does Tobago have? Like, what as an island can we produce? What do we have already existing that in the event we do achieve autonomy, we can thrive off and we can build a stronger economy than what we are getting now from Trinidad? Because I know when it comes to budget, we always have that one issue that we're not getting enough. We're not getting the budget that we deserve. So when we build an autonomous island, what resources do we have here in Tobago to finance ourselves?
Right, so an autonomous Tobago does not necessarily mean a seceded Tobago. Let me be clear on that. So having a more autonomous Tobago does not mean that Tobago becomes an independent nation state. That has not been the advocacy of any of us in the House, perhaps except for the member for Roxborough Argyle that is on record of for asking for secession. In fact, his position is we should start at that place when we negotiated, and then we will probably get to the place of the kind of autonomy, the kind of devolved powers that we desire. So let me say that clearly. Secondly, the issue of resources. I don't want us to have a misconception about Tobago's contribution to the national budget. I know some maliciously and deliberately parrot this nonsense that all Tobago contributes is really about $200 to $250 million in tax revenues that is collected on the island. That is rubbish. That is not true. And there isn't an accurate reading anywhere of Tobago's contribution to the national economy. So let's start there, because the law actually says that all businesses that operate in Tobago should and must or shall pay their taxes in Tobago. But guess what? Several companies in Tobago don't pay their taxes in Tobago. I am sure Courts and American Stores and Republic and Royal and Scotia and FCB and all of the big banks and Unit Trust, I'm sure they don't pay their Tobago, well, Unit Trust wouldn't be covered under the tax, but I'm sure that these major institutions don't pay any of their taxes in Tobago for their Tobago business. So it's just on the surface of it, it's difficult to say what is Tobago's truest contribution to the national purse. But we are also very much aware that right in Tobago waters, there is the extraction of hydrocarbons, the extraction of natural gas from within waters in Tobago. And I'm sure, 100% sure, none of these oil companies actually remit their taxes for the business that is done, for the revenues generated from the extraction of resources from the Tobago space to Tobago. So to get a good judgment of what our contribution is will require some research that doesn't exist. Now, knowing that fact, part of the autonomy conversation has to include a funding arrangement. And one of the arguments I have made, even prior to becoming Chief Secretary, is that we ought to have embedded, enshrined in the Constitution, a formula for which Tobago receives funding. Because we are part of one country, and it's presumed that for as long as we are part of one country, very often you will find Tobago's resources not coming directly to Tobago. Only gas, natural gas being drilled in Tobago waters. They're not being piped directly to Tobago because Tobago does not have the capacity on land to refine natural gas in any form. So it has to be piped where we have refineries and we can do that sort of work. And then we get a product that we can use and a product that we can sell to the world. So that is understandable, that is expected. But there must be a formula as opposed to just a percentage by which we calculate diligently what Tobago gets from the national purse. Currently, based on the Dispute Resolution Commission ruling, Tobago can get between 4.03% of the budget and upwards to 6.9% of the budget. We never get to the top end. We have never gotten to the medium point either. So what we have gotten at the last budget was $4.30 out of every $100 spent in Trinidad. And I want Tobago to understand that. For every $100 spent in this country from the state, Tobago received $4.30 for its development agenda. $4.30. Now subtract $4.30 from $100, and you see how much is being spent in Trinidad versus how much is being spent in Tobago on development. And then ask yourself if $4.30 out of every $100 really equates to sufficient funding for Tobago's capital development. Ask yourself if that's sufficient to manage all of the items, about 33 plus, in the 5th schedule that Tobago is supposed to be responsible for. In the 5th schedule, Tobago is supposed to be responsible for air and sea ports, for example. But if Tobago is supposed to take the monies to build new airport and build a new seaport, the money doesn't exist there. And so it's with deliberateness that Tobago continues to get between $4.03 and $4.30, and the two major parties in Trinidad haggle and compete over who giving more. When in reality, the most we're getting is about $4.30 on every $100 from either of them. So half a dozen of one, 6 of the next, no real difference. Same coin, just different side of the equation. And so we always lose in the budgeting exercise that happens. As we speak, we know that debates are about to commence for the midterm review, and that's where the Minister of Finance will return to the Parliament and will either increase the budget or presumably can decrease the budget. More than likely to be an increase based on revenues, extra revenues generated, might be an increase based on need and based on the kind of social programs that must happen to get the economy moving again. And so when that happens, I'm sure you should look and see how much we will get out of the rebudgeting exercise. See how much more we will get. But I guarantee you, what we have had in the past, up until the last budget, which is this fiscal year, is $4.30 out of every $100. And on top of all of that, we are using out of that $4.30 to help the Prime Minister mind his business in Tobago, for things that are the Prime Minister's business.
Thank you very much for that.
Sure.
While we're on the support and the subventions from central government, in the op-ed, the Prime Minister highlighted, upon you guys coming into office, you had a meeting, and you know that Tobago continues to enjoy maximum support from central government. The question is, can you attest, and to what extent, and how do you anticipate this maximum support being affected in light of the
let me save you. That's all political rubbish. You see, there is a kind of political passive aggressiveness that happens. You sit in the meetings, they smile, they nod, they agree, they say yes, it will happen, and then you have to fight to get it to happen on the back end.
And what are some
let me give you an example. Case in point, tongue and country planning. I brought the motion to the House, took the thing to the Exec Council, had it approved, met with Minister Beckers in Tobago and the team from planning in Trinidad, sent a legal team down to Trinidad, sat before the Parliamentary Council. The lawyers, everybody agreed that based on the law, the THA really and truly should be executing the functions under tongue and country planning. We are more than a year since that happened, more than a year since the promise. The THA has prepared the space for the workers to migrate into. We have committed funds to paying the workers, to subsuming the workers, to paying for the technology, for paying for digitization of Tobago records, all of those things. And to this day, we still have PSs telling us, oh, we don't feel like we're ready in under 2 years. We ain't ready yet, and all sort of shippiness. And that has been a pattern throughout and in several other areas. I'll give you another very basic example. I have asked on no less than 3 occasions for the Minister of Finance, who is the corporation soul of the country, to provide me with a list of all of the national boards, committees for which the THA by law is required to have a representative. We are now in 2023. That request first was made in December 2021. In fact, the first government minister I met, it was the Minister of Finance, even before I met with the Prime Minister. And to date, something as simple as that, I cannot get the list. Well, it might be simple in your in our eyes, but it's not so simple because they really don't want us to know of all the boards of which we have members on, because they really don't want us to really have an input. But the point I'm making is, it is that kind of pattern. On one end, smile, nod, pretend as if we go into support, and then on the back end, just sit and don't do anything.
And I think it's
that has been
imperative.
a constant pattern.
I think it's imperative that I do ask though. What about the subventions? Have they been consistent? And I know it early. I think it was early last year. You asked the finance minister to have the Tobago subventions coming at a particular frequency. Has that been consistent?
Well, it's not at a particular frequency. The law says that the subvention must come in quarterly blocks, right?
Has that been consistent?
At one point, yes, and then it just ceased.
Okay.
And so the pattern is not as quarterly as it was when we first made noise about it. And the question I have to ask, rhetorically of course, is it that I should return to the media, return to the public and make noise every Monday morning over these things? Or find a way to get the thing working, find a way to get the island moving, notwithstanding. And perhaps part of my fault is I'm not making enough noise. I've been too quiet, too polite, perhaps. And that's why the one cryptic line got people all up in a frenzy. But I understand the political game at work. The Prime Minister is having a difficult time in Trinidad. They're murdering everybody down there, left, right, and center. He can't manage crime down there. The economy down there is in shambles. They are seeing diminishing returns on their political moves. We're seeing all sorts of exposés about members of his cabinet and how they may have poor dealings.
Right.
And so he's looking for a distraction.
Right.
The village idiots with a soapbox, they need a distraction. They need something to talk about. And that's why I was very clear in just giving a one-liner and letting that be sufficient. So that people know quite clearly what are THA's responsibilities as enshrined in the 5th schedule, and what are central governments as enshrined in the 6th schedule, and also the 7th schedule, which are services that must be delivered on the island, in the island of Tobago.
Right. And I think it's imperative, before I go over to Luke, that I must ask, in light of what happened, your statement, and given what had happened with Eric Williams in the past, are you fearful, right, that, you know, the Tobago might suffer because of this public banter between you and the Prime Minister?
No, well,
how would you try to avoid that and make sure that Tobago gets what it really deserves, and there's no repeat?
Let's be logical about this. Right. I don't know that Tobago could suffer more than on the hands of the central government than we already are. They will continue to give their $4.03 or $4.30 based on how they feel per budget. That will continue to happen. I don't see that changing any way or the other. So whether I shut up and zip my mouth, as I was told by a former chief sec contestant, we should zip up our lips. If I zip up my lips, we'll still get the $4.03. If I talk, we're still getting the $4.03. Let me say something to Tobago. This is an island that had a long traumatic experience with colonization, and we are by and large descendants of or byproducts of colonization, and all that came with it. And so we, more than anybody else, should understand the dynamics between house slaves and field slaves. And I know that there are some house slaves that would prefer that we continue to curtsy, bow, and hopefully we get some extra crumbs from the table. While those of us that are toiling in the field understand that we just have to break up this colonial relationship and let Tobago have an equal place, side by side, not a ward off. I must say to you guys who are younger that this is a historical matter. It predates all of us. It predates the 41 or so years of the modern Tobago House of Assembly. You must understand and appreciate that when Tobago was joined to Trinidad, Tobago at that time already had an autonomous assembly. Tobago had its own AG. Tobago had money and monetary systems and trade systems. And when Tobago was belonged to Trinidad, Tobago had to have a reduced autonomy, because Trinidad at the time did not even have an assembly as autonomous as Tobago had. Tobago had voting, elections, and so on before Trinidad had that. And we were forced to give that up and become subservient to Trinidad. In fact, as I observed yesterday when I was reading through some historical records on Tobago, Tobago had to give up all of its laws and just adopt Trinidad. So it's not a nothing that Tobago had to give up itself, give up its identity to be a part of this relationship called Trinidad and Tobago. That's what happened when we became a part of the one country. And I'm saying both Trinidad and Tobago, both people living in Trinidad and Tobago must appreciate that we all collectively, both in Trinidad and in Tobago, have to correct a historical wrong. And to correct that historical wrong. It means that the descendants of slaves and indentured laborers and migrants have to come together and say quite forcefully, we are going to correct these historical wrongs. We are going to ensure that we make good of this creature that we have called a republic. We can't be a republic where we got rid of the monarch as our head of state. Jamaica is now debating whether they should remove the monarch and what steps they should take to become a republic. Only now in 2023, when they became independent about a month before us. But at our age as a republic, we should have already corrected all of these historical wrongs. And it's not just with regards to Tobago. It's also regard to indigenous peoples. It's also with regards to simple things as the names of places in the country, for example, that are still named after some people who never came to the country, some people who were not heroes, who were destructive and murderers and rapists. I don't know what it will take for us to be bold enough to rearrange this country as a whole to the point where we correct these historical wrongs. And every party, every major party, both PNM and UNC, they will all and always campaign about constitutional reform. And when they get there, they will do nothing about constitutional reform. When in reality, we should be aiming to evolve, to revolutionize the republic in such a way that we can truly add meaning to the term that is a republic.
All right, Chief. So earlier in our responses, we were speaking about the math, you know, the $4.30. And I think we need some clarity when it comes to the finances, say, that passes through Trinidad and Tobago. Now, we live in Tobago and we know that we had a major issue with the contractors in terms of getting their payments. However, you would have stated that the relationship between you and the central government was one that is, you know, they just laugh in your face, pretend that they're going to answer your claims and not do what you asked to do. However, there are also claims in the space saying that in terms of the contractors, you would have requested $100 million and it was granted to you. Can we discuss that some more, please?
Sure, of course. The matter with the contractors is a complex matter. You have to remember that when in January of last year, I brought to the attention of the public and the island some egregious financial acts that happened to the Division of Infrastructure, where hundreds of millions of dollars in contracts were given out without any due process, and things look shady. An audit was commissioned. I made it very clear that I will only be paying in accordance to the recommendations of the audit result. We got the final audit result for phase 1 of the audit that affected 3 of the largest contractors, where between the 3 of them, there were over 80 projects. On those projects and things that were audited, I would tell you as a matter of fact that those contractors received payments as advised by the audit report. As advised by the audit report, not a cent more. I'm not at liberty to talk in greater details about the audit and what the results showed. But each of these contractors were written to by our legal team, and the egregious acts were pointed out to them, and they were given some time to respond as a course of natural justice before we take a legal case. I could tell you from this standpoint, one public officer has already been fired based on the results of the audit, and there are more actions to come. But given that a lot of this will be quite legal, it will require me to hold my peace and be very judicious in what I share in terms of information. In terms of other contractors, payments are being made based on verified claims. Now, you have to appreciate that the contractors who are making noise for payments from 2021 and 2020, they must appreciate that we have contractors making noise for payments from as far back as 2002. So $100 million sent to pay contractors on the island really and truly is not even a drop in the bucket. We have a court case right now for $80 million for a contract from 2002. We have claims from 2002, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 from contractors. Some of them, the companies no longer exist in the space, and those two have to be serviced. So it's not just those who are owed recently that must demand their monies and that we must pay, but we also have to pay some of those that we owe long before. Now,
okay, Chief, I'm sorry to interject you.
One more thing before I go and I do have an 8 a.m. meeting, but if I am to say, let's treat this fairly and start paying from the oldest bills and pay the newest ones last, you know what will happen? Many of those making noise now will not get a single cent. That's the reality. And so it's about balancing, paying some of the older ones, paying some of the more recent ones, paying some in the middle, and having equity across the space. So that's how we're managing it in a very fair way. And as I've said before, contractors can't get all of their monies because we will only pay as funds are available. We can't pay what's not available.
Okay, Chief, so just to clarify the question I asked, is it that you all did get the money requested from the central government? Is it that you asked for it and it was granted to you? I think that's the question we're trying to clarify here in this space, because we saw claims on social media just being thrown around. So the question now is, did you request the money and was the money granted?
Yes, because I made it clear to the Ministry of Finance. I said, look, if we are to service all of these debts, and this was since December of 2021, when I met with the Minister of Finance, when I first made that request. I said to the Minister then that we were inheriting just over $900 million in debt and liabilities, and that for those debt and liabilities to be serviced, the central government will have to send monies separate and apart from what it sends for capital development. Since 2021, that conversation started. You know, we got some. Remember, I said it's over $900 million in debt. We got $100 million of that in 2023. From 2021 to 2023, we got that. And so contractors who were caught up, some of them who were in the public space talking, some have gotten quite some millions for their work. And that's what I'm saying. Monies are being paid to contractors as we speak. But I'm also making the point that the debt that we inherited as estimated in December of 2021 was just under $1 billion. So if it's just under $1 billion, that is not even a drop in the bucket. And that's why I asked a rhetorical question to the contractors who are owed 1 year or 2 years. Should I do the fairest thing and start with the oldest bills first and pay those, come forward, and leave all the new bills for last? Or should I continue the strategy that we are using, which is some of the new ones, some of the old ones, some in the middle, and try to cover all bases as funds are available? But the reality is, in just one program that happened pre-election in 2020, pre-January 2021 election, in one program, we had in excess of $300 million just being thrown out in contracts. In excess of $300 million. Now, if $100 million came to service our debt to contractors, wouldn't there be several contractors still or several projects still that can't be paid?
Okay, Chief. So
unfortunately,
we've reached the end. You know, we're all out of time. I really wish we had more time to discuss, you know, that inherited financial crisis that we have here in the THA. But, you know, you're always welcome here on the Youth Wednesday show. And probably in our next segment, we'll be able to delve deeper with more time. I hope management is listening to us, you know, with more time, and maybe we could finish up this conversation. So, Chief, I want to thank you for joining us here this morning on the Youth Wednesday show. Dwayne?
Yes. And we need 2 hours. Just putting that there, 2 hours with the Honorable Chief Secretary, and hopefully next week could be once his schedule permits.
Yeah, I need to check that.
Right?
I need to check that
once his schedule permits. So I want to thank you very much, Honorable Chief Secretary, for having us, and from us, the Youth Wednesday host and Tobago Updates morning show. We want to thank you very much. You guys have a great day, and remember to
Share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.
If you see or know about a crime, report a crime safely and anonymously. Call 800-TIPS. Help stop crime. You can play your part safely and anonymously. Report a crime. Earn a reward. Call 800-TIPS. Help stop crime. Be a hero. Champion. Fearless citizen. Be a crime stopper safely and anonymously. Call 800-TIPS. Help stop crime.
MI4 Security Services Company is the most advanced security service in Tobago. Ask about our cash and transit service. It's safe, risk-free, reliable, and timely. We provide safe banking delivery for all business types and sizes with highly trained staff, 24/7 monitoring, coordinated emergency response, and a well-maintained fleet of armored vehicles. Contact us at 660-7723 or visit our website at www.mi4securitytt.com to sign up today.
Sign up, save, and win every day with Digicel Plus. You could win a tablet or a TV every single day. Just sign up for Digicel Plus and like yourself. Visit digiceltt.com or a Digicel store to sign up now. Promotion ends May 19th and is approved by the NLCB.
You can now get whatever you need whenever you need it anywhere in Tobago with Tobago. Your meals, medication, groceries, and shopping all delivered directly to you. No more hassle, no more stress. Get the Tobago app today on Google Play or Apple App Store.
That's TAPPOGO and let us deliver to you.
Check our website at www.tapogo.app or call the experts at 494-TOGO and 484-4746. Tobago. Relax. We will get it to you. Tobago's at your service.
Coconut's Cafe, the buffet restaurant that specializes in all your tasty local dishes for breakfast and for lunch. Breakfast includes coconut bake and sada roti served with chokers, bull joil, and sausages in tomato sauce. Not forgetting beef and cheese pies, shepherd's pie, macaroni pie, and rice in various styles. Meat served in a variety of flavors, garden salads, and pasta salads. All this accompanied by fruit juices, coconut water, your choice of a great combination to appease your taste buds. So call us today to order, as we are here to accommodate your busy schedules or if you are having a cooking day off.
Tapicom. Welcome to the future. The only card you will need in a new world. Digital business cards. Safe, hassle-free. The future is here. Tapicom, new generation digital transfer. Digital time clock cards. Digital attendance cards. Air tags. Customized designs. Digital clothing tags. Digital pet tags. Tapicom, the future is here. Contact us today.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning.
Good morning and welcome back, viewers. And now that we are switching from the world of politics, we'll be sterilizing, pulling out our microscopes and jumping into the field of science. So, viewers, right here this morning, I have with me a few members from the Society for Inherited and Severe Blood Disorders, and we'll be discussing about some meetings and blood drives that they have upcoming. So I want to say a special morning to the both of you all, and how are you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so starting from my far right, I'd like for you to introduce yourself and tell our viewers who you are and what you specialize in.
Right, I'm Dr. Victor Wheeler, Medical Chief of Staff of the Scarborough General Hospital.
And I'm Karen Louis Ovin. I am the President for the Society for Severe and Blood Disorders Tobago chapter.
All right, so before we delve deeper into our discussions this morning, blood disorders, especially in primary school, we will hear some of them, most notably the sickle cell anemia. You know, sometimes we see that child who can't go outside, they can't be in the sun too long, they can't fall down. So tell us a bit more about these inherited disorders.
The disorders. Sickle cell, well, one of the main problems with sicklers is pain crisis. If it's too hot, they would have problems. They would have pain crisis. If it's too cold also, they would still have pain crisis. So they have to have a balance where they have to drink lots of water and, you know, take care of themselves. With hemophilia now, it's a clotting disease where the blood doesn't clot on time. So they could bleed to death. They are known as bleeders. Thalassemia also is one where the red blood cells are not being formed at all. So those persons have to get a top-up of blood for the lifetime unless if they get a bone marrow transfer.
Okay, great. Dr. Whale, anything you want to add?
Well, these are what we call inherited blood disorders. So it's not something that you acquire, you are born with. And it's essentially because various parts of the blood cells aren't formed properly. So like in sickle cell disease, they sickle or get hard depending on the conditions, as Ms. Irvin said, if it's very hot or very cold. So why the society is here is to try to educate members of the public about these conditions. The society is there to provide support to persons affected with these conditions. And we are also trying to mobilize them so that they can join the society, either persons who are directly affected or they know family members or friends who are affected by these various blood disorders.
Okay, great. And do you have any upcoming events, any upcoming meetings that people who are affected or who have family members that are affected by these disorders, they can reach out and get in touch with you all?
Yes, every third Saturday we do meet at the hospital, the LRC room. But right now we have an upcoming blood drive, which is on the 23rd of May, but it's going to be held at Glen Road and the compound of Glen Road where
it's where the TRHA
yes.
head office and the division of head office is.
Okay, right. That's a Glen Road near where community development is
Yes.
also
Yes.
placed.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
So blood donating, I think people oftentimes overlook the importance of donating blood and how it helps to, you know, stabilize and maintain our medical field. So since you all are the expert, please tell our viewers why it is important to donate blood.
Well, for us, it's the case of our inherited blood disorders, but also look, we have frequent shootings, and one of the main things would be top-ups of blood because persons would be bleeding out. And also we want to have a register where we could have continuous supply of blood. This is why we really want to push this initiative. This is going to be the first one. We want to continue, so at least we know we have a constant supply. Right now, we have a patient who needed blood and they had to ask for donors, and they're saying that the blood has to come from Trinidad and then it has to be replaced. So we want to have a continuous supply of blood. This is what we want to have in our space in Tobago.
And that patient, is that the young? I think I would have seen a flyer circulating on social media. A young guy here in Tobago is in urgent need of blood. And you know, he's somebody I would have seen around. You know, I seen him probably daily walking through Scarborough, and to see that flyer and see that he's in a state now that he needs blood, I think it's a really sad. It's really sad. So viewers, you know, if you're listening to us this morning, you know, our youth, we're on the youth show, our youth is in need of blood. So if you can, please donate blood. So how can someone become a blood donor? If it's a one-time thing, or they can register to become a blood donor, how does becoming a blood donor work?
All right, so the Ministry of Health has a website that you can go on that points out all the various things you need to give blood, who can give blood, who can't give blood. That's one way. The other way is to contact the blood bank at the Scarborough General Hospital, where you can call to make an appointment to give blood. But what we are really interested in is having persons registered to become regular blood donors, and they are given blood just for the benefit of giving blood. That way, we will have a list of persons that we can call on to say, okay, a person who is registered can give blood between 2 to 3 times a year. That way we can manage our blood stocks. For Tobago, we are looking for between 700 to 800 persons to be on that register, so that we would be able to manage our blood stocks for the hospital, to avoid persons needing blood having to beg for blood as it is now. Whenever anybody needs blood, there's already blood supply available. And this is something that is being done not only in Tobago, but in Trinidad. We are trying to get away from the current chit system whereby when you give a pint of blood, you're given a chit to say that you have donated blood. And if somebody needs blood, they have to bring in chits from other persons who have given blood. That is a system now that is not working. We're trying to get persons to voluntarily register to give blood so that we can have adequate blood supplies, and those same persons giving blood 2 to 3 times a year. That way we are sure of the quality of blood that regular persons are given.
Okay, understood. And being a blood donor, what are some factors, some lifestyle habits that will most likely disqualify you from being a blood donor?
Well, certainly we don't want persons who have multiple partners engaging in unprotected sex, high-risky behavior, persons who currently have infectious illnesses. The recent guidelines have changed, whereas in the past you could not give blood over 60. Now there's no age limit for giving blood. The minimum age is 18. Even if you have diabetes or high blood pressure, those things would not disqualify you from giving blood. When you come to give blood, you will have a check, you'll have a blood test to make sure your blood count is okay, and they will accept the blood.
Okay, understood.
And also no fresh tattoos.
Oh,
yes, yes, that has to be over a year.
Yes.
All right.
No fresh tattoos, no multiple partners.
Yes.
What about drugs like marijuana and those stuff? Can someone who is a...
Well, we would obviously discourage persons who are using those sort of drugs to come and give blood.
Okay, understood.
There are some benefits for giving blood. If you give blood on a regular basis, it helps to stimulate your immune system. There's some argument where it could even help with managing obesity.
Okay.
But essentially, the main benefit is your contribution to the society, because you can never know when you yourself or a family member or someone you know well would need blood. If you are a regular donor, is one way of ensuring that there's adequate blood supplies in the blood bank, so that when anybody needs blood, blood is available. But we do need some members of the community, minimum 700, to become registered regular blood donors who will give blood about 2 to 3 times a year.
Okay, understood. And touching on the walkathon, the upcoming walkathon, tell us, what do you hope to achieve from that walkathon? What is the main goal of the walkathon?
The walkathon will be held in Trinidad. Hopefully we'll have our setup for next year. We're just going to have the outreach with the blood donation at Glen Road on the 23rd.
Okay, great.
Yes.
All right, understood. And I would like for you all to remind our viewers and our listeners once again how to register to become a blood donor, where they can go. If it's that there are multiple locations, can they go to a health center? Do you have a van that goes around collecting blood? Let us know our availability options.
Right. So essentially, this blood drive is being held at the head office of the TRHA and the Division of Health on the 23rd of May, where we actually have 2 mobile chairs that we can transport to the facility. But the blood bank at the hospital is open 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday to Friday, and also Saturday morning. For those in Trinidad, you can go to any of the public hospitals where the blood bank is there to give blood. If you have a group of about 10 to 12 persons, for example, in a workplace, where you want us to come to you, you can contact the hospital, and what we would need to do is assess the space to see if there's enough space for us to have the chairs. There are certain things we need to do to engage in privacy. Yes. But we can actually have a mobile unit coming to you if your group is large enough.
Okay, understood. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No, this is it for me.
Okay, great. So,
oh, yes. Contact number. My number is 391-4087. As I said, my name is Karen Louis Irvin. So if you have any questions, any queries, any concerns, you could contact me at that number.
All right. So I want to thank you for joining us here this morning to have this informative segment. Especially with all that's been going on thus far, we would have learned the importance of donating blood to help stabilize our medical field. So viewers, for those of you that are viewing the rerun, those of you listening, those of you viewing now, register and donate your blood, because we need it or youths need it,
Yes.
or hospital needs it. So get out there, reach out to them, get the information, and help to build a better medical field. So thank you once again for joining us this morning, viewers. We are at the end of the morning show. So I want to thank you all for joining us, for sticking throughout the entire segment. For those of you who will be sticking with us, remember to share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be switching over to Good Morning Tobago with Candice Jackson. Once again, I'm Luke Trim, and thank you for choosing Tobago Updates to start your morning on the right notes.
After over 6 decades of existence, the TWCU Credit Union has opened a branch in the sister isle Tobago. It was long in coming, but it has finally reached. This credit union was formed to accommodate and facilitate low-income families who needed a means of saving. Now, TWCU is expanding into Tobago. This milestone is being celebrated for bringing a 27th credit union to the island.
The establishment of this member-owned cooperative institution provided an opportunity for low-income members to save and obtain credit to meet their needs in an era when they were unable to have easy access to banks to meet financial needs.
For some time, due to the increase in membership and growth in status, there have been several requests from members. It is our hope that this new facility will serve as a catalyst to attract new members, particularly youth members. By the same token, it is an opportunity for members to invite relatives and friends to become members of the society. In addition, now is the time for inactive members to revive their membership status to be fully active.
Today, the fact that we are here within the first quarter of 2023 to open this branch is a very positive sign for the economy of Tobago at large. Tobago in and of itself has had a very long and beautiful and successful story with the credit union movement. Congratulations on this milestone. Congratulations on having this office as a forerunner to celebrating your 73rd year in business. That's quite a lot of years.
The TWCU Credit Union is located on the second floor in the Port Mall in Scarborough.
That was a production of the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly.
Help! Fire service! Hello, fire service! Anybody in here? Fire service! Yeah, we're right there! We gotta get out! We're right there! Okay, take him! Let's go!
Thank you for saving me. You're my hero.
Together, as we face the challenges during the new normal, always remember that fire safety begins with you.
This is how it's gonna go. They better look up and look, 'cause this is your show, and everybody's them once again. They better look out below. This is your show, and everybody's gonna know. That's how it's gonna go. They better look out below, 'cause this is your show.
Yeah. Hey.
Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago. Wake up with Candace and Denise here.
Let's go.
Welcome to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates, your source for current affairs in Tobago, Trinidad, and the region. With the perfect conversations to complement your morning routine, I am Candace Jackson, and let's get started with the news in 90 seconds. Minister of Works and Transport, Rohan Sidanan, agreed to meet with the Secretary of Infrastructure, Quarries, and Urban Development, Trevor James, to discuss the operations of the licensing division in Tobago. Last month, James wrote to the minister requesting a meeting regarding the joint road traffic enforcement and education exercise between April 13th and the 19th. Chief Secretary Fali Augustine criticized the action, claiming that it had adverse social and economic consequences. At the same time, Minister Sidanan defended the operations, arguing that they had every right to conduct exercises in Tobago. Meanwhile, the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development completed repairs on the Pirates Bay Road. Last year's extreme weather condition caused several landslips along the road, rendering it impossible for vehicular traffic. As part of the road rehabilitation program in the dry season, the division listed the Pirates Bay Road as one of its priority projects. The crew also took the opportunity to widen the road in some areas around corners for easier navigation. And nationally, the opposition is concerned about the upcoming presentation of the mid-year budget review by Finance Minister Com Imbert. At a press conference yesterday, MP Devindranath Tanku said despite there being over $418 billion in expenditure, the economy remains substantially smaller than when the PNM came into power in 2015. He attributed the economic crisis to every action taken by the PNM government and rejected all attempts by the government to mislead and misdirect the public's attention from the true state of the economy. Tanku also accused the government of misleading the country with false claims of growth while refusing to answer questions about expenditure. And that was your news in 90 seconds. And well, viewers, today is also World Press Freedom Day. You know, it's a day that's, especially for us, members of the media, is for us to come together, and just celebrate and, recognize and pay attention to, some of the things that are happening within our space, both nationally and internationally, when it comes to media and journalism and all of that sort of thing. Now, of course, it's something really important to people like me, and we're going to tell you a little bit why you should also be concerned. So joining us online this morning, we have Dr. Sheila Rampasad, who has been a journalist for many years in Trinidad and Tobago, one of our veterans. And of course, she is a former president of the Media Association of Trinidad and Tobago. So good morning and welcome to you, and happy World Press Freedom Day.
Hi, Candice. Good morning. Good morning to you and to all of your viewers. And always a beautiful gig to be on Tobago-related and Tobago-originated programs. So thank you for having me.
Certainly our pleasure. Now, Dr. Rampasad, I just want to get the conversation started as to, why should the public be concerned as well about World Press Freedom Day?
Well, I mean, at the basis, at the sort of premise, the level of the premise of World Press Freedom Day and of press freedom in general, is a notion that we all have a human right, and that human right is the human right to express and to express ourselves. In your opening, you were talking about how important this is for those of us in this sector, for journalists and media practitioners. And that term media now, of course, is so broad and so sort of ambiguous, in modern digital times. but the right to express oneself can be easily demonstrated, in a sense, if you consider from the moment you awoke this morning to this moment of this conversation with me, the number of expressions in which you have been engaged, and the number of expressions that we are engaged in continually as individuals. And one of the things that matters is that my freedom as a journalist is directly tied to other people's individual freedoms to express themselves. So there is no location in the world that I know of where there is freedom of individual expression and not freedom of the press. Vice versa, there is no location I know of where there is no freedom of the press, but there is a freedom to individually express. Those two things come together and they relate to a very basic human impulse to express oneself from the time, if you're lucky enough to have somebody next to you when you're awake in the morning, from the time you turn and you say good morning to the moment you go to sleep and you say good night, you are continuously expressing yourselves in a number of ways. And the capacity we have to protect that and to enhance it and to expand it, I think will be very important for the future digital world that we have entered.
Yes, certainly. And you touched on it a little bit, the changing spectrum of media and coverage and so on, where we see, AI technologies being developed where sometimes you need an actual journalist to be writing some of these stories. I mean, that's how crazy. It's a little bit scary the way how it's moving forward. And, it seems as though, in some respects, the jobs of media workers could be threatened in the future. Not that it already has been with the advances of technology, the proliferation of social media, and so on. Traditional media seems to be a bit under threat. What are your perspectives on this?
Well, traditional media is changing, and from the mere fact of calling it traditional media, I think there are some things that are very good about that tradition, and there are some things that are changing, and some things that need to change as time passes. So there's a sort of a whole set of reflection that has been going on about what service, what we call traditional media, has been able to provide. What we know for sure is that in Trinidad and Tobago, and internationally, in the international landscape, there is a declining trust in what traditional media produces and what we know to be news media produces.
Yes.
In addition to that, there is what people refer to as a sort of selective news avoidance. People who feel for a number of reasons that they don't want to engage with the news. Some people feel that the news is way too repetitive, and repetitive on particular topics like politics, and over the last few years, COVID-19 and the pandemic. There are some people who feel that just depresses their mood to be engaged in news and news products. So for a number of reasons, people are disengaging from news much more generally, no matter what platform it is on. The other aspect of the change we can illustrate via, let's say, Instagram and TikTok in 2022 last year. The fastest growing outlets for news are TikTok and Instagram. So that tells us how the ways in which the landscape is changing. At the basis of press, at the basis of press freedom, is this thing and this vocation in which you and I are engaged that is called journalism. And I think journalism itself has expanded out of news platforms. And if you look at what is being produced across the digital space, whether it is being produced for the sake of promoting misinformation, or whether it is produced for the sake of promoting legitimate information and public interest information, either end of the spectrum that you are on, what you are seeing are the strategies, the devices of traditional news media being used on those platforms to disseminate and communicate news. So I think what has happened also is that what we understand journalism to be is now in the hands, and it is something that is being exercised and executed by more people than journalists themselves.
Yes.
And in many ways, that is a good thing. And in some ways, that is a problematic thing and a dangerous thing. So I think it's a very complicated moment that we are in terms of information and news and the press. It's a complicated moment. It is a moment of many questions that we cannot answer yet, and a moment where there are many things that we can't resolve. So we have to approach this moment, in my own view, as a moment for thinking, a moment for consideration, a moment for observation, rather than a moment for resolving things, because there are many things in this moment that are irresolvable. When we are in that space of uncertainty and what I would call irresolvability, so to speak, what then anchors us? I think what anchors us is a basic understanding that the right to express ourselves is a basic human instinct, is a basic human impulse, that it enhances us as human beings, being able to express ourselves, number one. And number two, that your ability and your right to express yourself is directly and very tightly tied to the press and the media's ability to express themselves, that one does not exist without the other. And therefore, if you want as an individual to continue expressing yourself on social media and on any platform and in any way, then you also have to struggle with me to protect my right to express in a public interest space, which is what media and journalism really is.
Certainly. And, bringing the conversation home to Trinidad and Tobago as a whole, we see that we moved up a couple of points, or actually 6 points, on the World Press Freedom Ranking system. So we're now at 25. We moved from 31 to 25 out of 180 countries. And, the outlook seems pretty good for Trinidad and Tobago. I don't know if you want to share some of your opinions on this, and how do you feel about the state of press freedom, especially within Trinidad and Tobago, especially with some of the legislation that are kind of hanging in the corner there waiting to be implemented and passed?
Yeah, well, I think Candace, because you yourself are currently the vice president of the Media Association. When I was president of MAT, we worked heavily on and paid a lot of attention to a number of pieces of legislation, some that are here already, some that are coming in the form of amendments and those kinds of things. And you would recall that advocacy that MAT had to do with respect to the Freedom of Information Act. So there are certain things that are happening that tell us we know the direction in which to go, and we know the directions in which we need to move towards transparency. And the recent proclamation of the procurement regulations, the Procurement Act, I think tells us, though that act has been quoted and there is so much that has been exempted from public scrutiny, so many aspects of government and state business that have been exempted. But what the act tells us is that there is an understanding of the direction in which we have to go. We are doing that slowly. The business of secrecy, the business of hiding and concealing from the public information that is their right to know, is tied to the public also understanding that they do have a right to know, that when they ask for information, it is not a favor you are asking for. When people give you information and you seek information, don't do it in a way that suggests that you are begging for something or it is something that is not your right. It is your right. And the public, in making those demands, will continue to press forward towards greater transparency, so that bits of legislation that do the opposite will be cause for concern. And it is something that we all need to look at, because in a movement towards greater transparency, the status quo of secrecy and concealment will always be pulling back and pulling back. So there is this kind of tension that is happening in Trinidad and Tobago between that impulse and that desire and that push to know more and to have more access versus that impulse to sort of pull you back into places of darkness and secrecy where information is concerned. So I think public advocacy is going to be very, very critical in tilting the balance more in favor of openness of information. We are not there yet. We are nowhere close to being there. You and I know this. Individual people know this. Everybody who ever goes to a public service office asking for information, looking for information, not being able to find it, being told no, or if you get it, the difficulties you have to go for judicial review, for freedom of information requests, etc., etc. Continues to be a tremendous struggle to open up the information space. But I think what will take us closer to the place we want to be is a lot of public advocacy and the public coming into a place of understanding that your request and your demand for information is not a favor you are asking, it is a right that is yours. And the more informed you are, the more active and positive a citizen you will be.
And I want to expand on that a little bit more, because it also seems to be a problem that is being faced by several of our Caribbean brothers and sisters when it comes to the freedom of information and so on. I mean, and this eventually led to the Media Institute of the Caribbean forming their own freedom of information desk to help journalists throughout the Caribbean be able to access information from the government, because a lot of times, like when we as journalists or even members of the public request information, it gets ignored. And I want you to speak a little bit as to, how does that hurt the work that we do in terms of being able to really uncover the truth, or being able to be able to accurately report what's going on to the public?
Well, I mean, there are some locations in the world that we can look at. I mean, when we often in Trinidad and Tobago, when we talk about certain issues, we talk about ourselves as, when we talk, for example, of the ranking that you referred to on the World Press Freedom ranking, and that we have moved up, I think, from 31 to 25 or something like that, about 6 places up. And we take a great deal of pleasure and pride in that. What that actually translates into, and while we are happy to be at number 25 and we appear to be, and we have moved up from 31, it is not to look at the 180 down on the list. It is to look further up and what is happening further up the ranking. What are those countries and what kinds of systems do they have in terms of the openness of information? So the business of access that you talked about is something that has troubled us in journalism for a very long time, and it troubles the population. The reason that it troubles us in our sector is because we work for the public. That is what we do. We don't work for ourselves. The only reason you are doing what you are doing here this morning, and the only reason I am doing what I am doing here with you this morning, is for the public interest and to serve the public interest in some way. And essentially, we serve the public interest by providing as reliable information as we can, as accurate information as we can. And one of the things that we are always beaten with is the business of fact-checking, that we have to fact-check our information before we translate it and transmit it to the public. And I always ask the question, but where are those facts? Where are those facts that we are to check? Because if someone says something on a political platform, in a parliament, where is that body of information against which we can put what they say to do that fact-checking? There's an assumption in the public mind that those facts are there and we can just access it and just click on something and do it. And it is simply not there. A freedom of information request at its basic is 3 months to get a response. And beyond that, many extensions, as you know, Candice, people just get extensions. And then people just go to court and say, we don't want to give it. And the court, and by the time that process is over, a year has passed.
And it's also costly.
It is costly. And therefore, and one of the things I've noticed is that journalists do not use freedom of information requests a lot, although we have the legislation, we have the access. Some people do it, but many of us do not do it. And the reason members of the public do, I have noticed that lawyers do, representing clients in various cases, but we as a sector do not. And one of the main reasons is because it is cumbersome to do. We operate in news cycles, and a story now that we get information for 6 months or 8 months down the line will not be a story 6 and 8 months, or likely not to be a story 6 and 8 months down the line. And so I think sharpening that tool of freedom of the Freedom of Information Act and working out its operationalization, which has not been fully fleshed out, right? So in other words, the culture of let us hide information rather than give information. And we know that that culture is still very much intact. And it seems to me that that is the culture that we are battling, that instinct to say no whenever somebody wants a piece of information, whenever somebody asks for something, whether it is you and I professionally, or whether it is a member of the public. When you ask for information, the instinct is still to say no. The instinct is still to find a way to not give it to you, rather than to find every way possible to try to locate the information and to pass it on to you. That cultural shift has not happened, and that is where we need to be going.
All right. I want to thank you so much, Dr. Sheila, for being on with us. I mean, and to sharing those perspectives, because I mean, it is something to be concerned about. You know, a lot of times the public does not know what goes on behind the scenes, and, you know, they are very quick to judge. We are often very highly criticized for the work that we do, but there's a whole lot that goes into play to ensure that we can bring this information as accurately as possible to the public.
And happy World Press Freedom Day to you too, Candice, and to all of your viewers and listeners.
Thank you so much. All right, viewers, well, that's it for this segment of our show, but we've got a lot more coming up for you after the break.
The energy fill the skies. I say thanks for favor to wake up and hear me neighbor.
Sign up, save, and win every day with Digicel Plus. You could win a tablet or a TV every single day. Just sign up for Digicel Plus and like yourself. Visit digiceltt.com or a Digicel store to sign up now. Promotion ends May 19th and is approved by the NLCB.
Tobago Glass Supplies has been a leading name for over 37 years in the glass and aluminum market in Tobago. We provide an extensive range of high-quality, innovative aluminum and glass products for commercial and residential use. Competitive prices with superior and professional services by committed employees who are guided by rigid quality standards. Tobago Glass Supplies specializes in the manufacture and installation of glass and aluminum products that are essential to today's homeowners and the business environment. We are engaged in marketing, sales, and installation of a variety of products. These ranges from windows and doors to necessities such as mirrors for homes and vehicles, designed and manufactured in-house or imported.
Everybody only worrying. Never ever worry. Don't mind how things looking hard. I tell them never ever worry. If your nice can't get damaged bad. I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry. Don't mind if life make you sad. I tell them never ever worry. If your house get flooded out real bad. I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry. If sickness catch you off guard. I tell them never ever worry. If times fall on you real hard. I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil will always be here for you. Never worry about a thing. Tatil, where people are people. You know what I mean.
Coconut's Cafe, the buffet restaurant that specializes in all your tasty local dishes. For breakfast and for lunch. Breakfast includes coconut bake and sada roti, served with chokers, bull joil, and sausages in tomato sauce. Not forgetting beef and cheese pies, shepherd's pie, macaroni pie, and rice in various styles. Meat served in a variety of flavors, garden salads, and pasta salads. All this accompanied by fruit juices, coconut water, your choice of a great combination to appease your taste buds. So call us today to order, as we are here to accommodate your busy schedules or if you are having a cooking day off.
Yeah. Hey.
Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Well, viewers, I mean, it is World Press Freedom Day, and you know, part of the press is being able to express yourself in the format of books. And we have on set with us the Tobago Writers Guild as they get set to prepare for another book launch by the mayor of Port of Spain, Mr. Louis Lee Singh, who was also on set with us. Well, he's online with us, and it's about his book, Closer to the Church. And also joining me is Mr. Leroy George from the Tobago Writers Guild. Good morning and welcome to you.
Good morning, Candice.
And to you, Mr. Lee Singh.
Good morning to you. Good morning to you. Good morning to you.
Such a pleasure to have you both on with us this morning. So I want to get started with you, Mr. Lee Singh, to give us an idea about your book, Closer to the Church. It has a very interesting title. And I know we are all curious to know, you know, what's the inspiration behind this book, or what is it about? So, I mean, the floor is yours.
Well, first of all, let me correct one thing. I'm not the second mayor. I was mayor during the period 2010 to 2014, early 2014. But this is by way of correction. But more to the point, Closer to the Church, it's my third book, but my first novel. And I'm sure viewers would be familiar with the term closer to the church. You heard the old people say it a lot. The ending of that statement was further from God. And so the book really is an interesting little novel that came into my head during the pre-COVID period and then into COVID. And I penned this book, which essentially talks about religion and the misdeeds of the clerics and clergy, not only in, and I don't want people to believe it's only about Catholicism or Christianity, but it embraces Islam and Hinduism and the other religions. And it's not only locally focused, but it touches on other issues worldwide. The book really essentially is about a young man who hails from a place called Las Bajo, and he comes together with a lady who comes from the wealthy suburb of Goodwood Park, but she marries a Muslim man after knowing him for 2 weeks, and she goes to live in East Port of Spain in a place called Rose Hill. These two people get together to host a conference, which later becomes an international conference of the ungodly here in Port of Spain, Trinidad. And so the book takes us along that journey. The conference is successful. And the reality is that they may have entered the conference as nobodies, unknowns, people who had only an idea. But by the time the conference was over, they became speakers in demand across the world on this particular subject. They hosted a very successful conference here in Port of Spain. So the book, in my view, I have chosen to write about Trinidad in everything that I write about. I've chosen to illustrate how sweet Trinidad could be, but how sour and how bitter it can be. I've chosen to, as it were, if I'm, for example, in one part of the book, I'm speaking about coffee, and I can't help but focus on Hong Wing coffee because it's a coffee I grew up on.
Yes.
That's the nature of the book. It's a book that holds you from, if I dare say so myself, holds you at the edge of your seat and encourages you to read once you've opened the pages.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, you chose an interesting theme, focusing a little bit on religion, cross religion in a way, because we're such a multicultural, multi-religious society. Is that where you drew the inspiration from?
Well, as I said to you, I've chosen to write about Trinidad. I currently have another book which is before the publishers. The title of the book is Between the Bank and the Gutter. It's a novel about street dwellers in Port of Spain. And who knows about street dwellers better in Port of Spain, better than the mayor of Port of Spain, the former mayor of Port of Spain. So I believe Trinidad is a place that offers writers tremendous opportunity if they have observing eyes and minds. And I have sought to drive that agenda, because I think if somebody's reading my book, and it is in fact on Amazon and on Kindle, as well as in bookstores across London, if people are reading the book, they would get to know about Trinidad and may just be curious enough to want to come here and experience some of what I have written. And I have used all the terms. I've not changed the language to meet an international audience. When I speak about currents roles in the book, you must know what a currents role is. How else would you want to know what a currents role is if you don't come to Trinidad and Tobago and find out where the best currents rolls are manufactured and produced?
Nice. Now, Mr. George, I want you to speak from the perspective of the Tobago Writers Guild as to, how important it is to support local authors like Mr. Lee Singh within our space.
Extremely important. This month is the month of May. It is the International Month of Mental Health Awareness. And a lot of people, they go to, as Mr. Lee Singh said, not just the church, but different houses of worship, different places where persons feel as though they could get a little bit closer to God. And oftentimes that's to deal with mental issues, be it mild or be it major. And so the conversation that will be taking place globally, I'm sure it's very similar to the conversation that will be taking place in Trinidad and Tobago. But because Tobago and Trinidad are so different in terms of race composition, creed composition, etc., I am really excited about this upcoming Thursday, 6:30, at the Anne Mitchell Gift Auditorium in the Scarborough Library, to see where this conversation is going to go, because it's a conversation that is happening more and more often in this age of information technology, where people are looking closer to the church. And when I say closer, taking a closer look at the church and asking themselves, what is the purpose of this? And when you look at the panelists, we have persons that in the Tobago space, definitely they are among the persons on the top of the list when you want to hear somebody's opinion on subjects like this. Like, for instance, you have, coming possibly with a legal perspective, Miss Deborah Moore McGinnis, yes, right? One of the founders of the Tobago Writers Guild.
And a prolific writer herself.
And an extremely prolific writer, both fictional and factual. And also, not only is she one of the founders of the Writers Guild, she's also a director also. Also having a legal perspective, when it comes to legalities. Why do people do this? Why do people do that? What makes this right? What makes that wrong? That's something I'm interested in hearing from Reginald Dumas, right? Former head of the public service, obviously. Just like the church is an institution, all the services that he would have been the head of are institutions that work towards ensuring that we have a better quality of life here in the Trinidad and Tobago space. And it's medical. A lot of this is mental. We have family practitioner. Dr. Denise Soyafat Angus, she's also going to be a part of that conversation. And even the moderator, she has a degree in psychology, Jewel Green George, the president of the Tobago Writers Guild. And so I'm listening to former Mayor Louis Leasing talk about his book, and to tell you the truth, I'm really anxious to get my hands on the book itself on Thursday because it is going to be available for purchase. But I'm also anxious to get my hands on the sequel because when he talks about how that ends with the persons who basically put together this conference to speak about the wrongs of the church and then is put on a pedestal.
Yes.
I could imagine my wife often says one thing she's not interested in is seeing that no religion becomes the new religion. And so I'm really looking forward to the sequel. I'm going to ask Mr. Louis Leasing one time if he hasn't thought about it. Please make a copy available to me immediately. And so we're really looking forward to this. 6:30 at the Anne Mitchell Gift Auditorium in the library.
Now, Mr. Leasing, what motivated you to, work with the Tobago Writers Guild and to do a book launch in Tobago?
I think Tobago offers the best of us in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. I make no bones about that. And I've made this point already. I was at a meeting in Tobago not too long ago, and I made the point that when one counts per capita the population of Tobago as against the population of Trinidad, and one looks at the people who have risen, the cream that has risen to the top of the hierarchy of things and the order of things in Trinidad and Tobago, one recognizes how serious the people who come from Tobago are. And therefore, I was simply moved to be able to work with a writers guild and a book club. Now, there might be writers guilds and book clubs in Trinidad and Tobago, but they certainly do not reach out to new authors and new writers. I've also made the point, certainly when I launched the book for the earlier on about Trinidad, I made the point that the one thing that is diversifying itself for Trinidad and Tobago are writers. This thing about publishing is growing and growing. You can go to any bookstore, and I would guarantee you a guess that 90% of the books or more are by local authors. People are writing memoirs, people are writing biographies, people are writing fiction, people are writing factual, real stuff, and it's all there. And I always encourage people, instead of buying fragrances and ornaments and dust collectors as gifts, let's start buying books and giving it to people as gifts. Because
100% agree with you.
The government is still taxing us on books. So instead of encouraging people to write, they are discouraging people to write, because after you pay the cost for publishing and all the costs associated with it, if you don't find a publisher, you still have to pay on VAT to bring your books into Trinidad. And therefore, and then you charge, and people are still charging VAT on books. My feeling is that if you don't charge VAT on books, the books could become much cheaper, and therefore many people would buy more books. Additionally, the point I'm trying to make is this, that we keep talking about diversifying our economy. But this whole thing about publishing, writing and publishing books is doing it without any assistance. More young people, many more people are writing of all ages, and it ought to be encouraged. There ought to be incentives. The state ought to open up some kind of facility to assist people, not to give anything, because the fact that we are doing it on our own, spending the hours sitting and writing, or take wherever we get napkins in a restaurant or on the street, you make your notes. These are the skills that no one can pay for, and therefore they ought to be encouraged.
that we're seeing an increase of writers, of authors, very good authors coming from both islands, from both Trinidad and Tobago. And a lot of them was, I would say the majority of them focusing on writing about things that we know, our culture, you know, our beliefs, you know, what it is to be a Trinidadian and a Tobagonian. But that's happening at the same time where, you know, people are more interested in social media, especially the young people are more interested in social media and that sort of thing, and in some ways reading less. And I would like both of you, both Mr. George and both you, Mr. Leasing, to speak on that, you know, just that sort of paradox that's happening. We're having this increase of local writers, but yet we have, you know, a decrease in some ways of literacy among our young population.
Well, unless Mr. George wants to go, I'd like to take a crack at that.
Yes, sure.
Let me say to you, it isn't that young people are reading any less, but it is what they're reading and how they're reading it, which in a sense tells us, the writers, that we also have to prepare special publications, the way we publish for young people must be different to how we publish for the ordinary reader. It isn't that young people are not ordinary readers, but young people read in shots. That. And therefore, we have to find a way to give them the that, to entice them and to encourage them to read. We also have to understand that the young people aren't going to go out and buy the book, but they certainly would read the book if it is made available to them on Kindle or something like that. And so, just as the world has changed, and just as the world has become more violent, we have got to recognize that Trinidad is no different, and we've got to understand, not accept, but understand what corrective measures must be taken and how do we apply these corrective measures. I see the point about getting younger people to read as being a reason to do some serious evaluation and to, as it were, to do serious planning on how do I reach those people. And some people are doing it. There's a young lady, and her name fails me now. She has done a beautiful book on waterfalls of Trinidad and Tobago. And she has been promoting that book and selling it to the reader online, and the snippets and how she presents it. And when she's doing her own book presentations at a mall, where there's C3 Mall in San Fernando, she promotes it. And I thought I had nothing but admiration. I have nothing but admiration, I have nothing but admiration for the way she continues to try and promote her book.
So George, I mean, we're also running out of time, but I just want to quickly get your perspective on this matter in terms of our literacy among our young people, even while we're seeing more of our local authors coming forth.
Well, the Tobago Writers Guild literally has dozens of published writers, right? Whether the published work is as newspaper articles, books, whatever, we have dozens. And we have our publishing house also. So as you could imagine, we spend a lot of time thinking about how to get Tobagonians in particular to read more. And so we do a lot of social exercises, social science exercises, one of which was done right here in this building here in the Port Mall, whereby we read to persons and had persons read to us right here, random persons in the Tobago space. And we discovered that everybody greatly enjoyed it. And that's why I'm also looking forward to this event on Thursday in the library at 6:30, because part of what is going to happen at this book launch is that we're going to have the panelists actually reading parts of the book. And so we're going to have a discussion that's going to take place. Questions are going to be asked and answered in the space. And I think that discussion is so important. You know, Tobago produced when, as Mr. Leasing pointed out, when you look at the proportion, we only 5% of the population, yet still we produce 2 prime ministers out of 7 and 1 president out of 7. And as Assemblyman Sonny Craig jokingly said recently, we might even be producing the next Port of Spain mayor very soon. And so what that says to me is that Tobago produces leadership. Right? And that if we're producing leadership, that means we're producing perspective. And I think coming out of this book launch that is going to be happening Thursday, I know I keep repeating the date, the time,
Yes.
etc., because that's my job as public relations officer. Thursday in the Scarborough Library and Mitchell Gift Auditorium, 6:30. I know for a fact that a conversation is going to come out of it that is really going to be revolutionary in the way we look at the entire clergy, the whole world of clergy in all different creeds.
And we are certainly looking forward to it, especially Mr. Lisa, you will be in Tobago for that day and you would be sharing yourself from your book.
Well, I am looking forward to this. In fact, I remember calling a very good friend of mine in Tobago. I didn't discuss it with her, so I wouldn't call her name. And I said, listen, I want to get onto the Tobago's Guild. And she said, what you want? I said, I want to talk to them about introducing closer to the church, to the Tobago community. And that is how it started. But I'll say this to you, and I say it without fear of contradiction. I have had to communicate with Ms. Joel Green George over the last month or 2 or 3 on this matter, and I couldn't get a more professional person to communicate with. I think Ms. Green is a credit to the Tobago community, and I certainly look forward to continuing to work with her as the years progress.
All right, I want to thank you both, Mr. George, Mr. Leasing, and viewers, you need to be at the Scarborough Library on Thursday, 6:30 for the book launch of Closer to the Church by Mr. Louis Leasing. And yes, and he has it up there. Go be there, make a purchase. Would there be other books also on sale?
Yes.
From Tobago?
From Tobago.
Yes.
All the other books, this is the only book that's going to be from a Trinidad author. All the other books that are going to be available there would be from Tobago writers. But of course, we're focusing specifically because this is the book launch for Mr. Louis Leasing's Closer to the Church.
Some exciting time. So viewers,
let me just add it. I'm also bringing to introduce Tobagonians to Local Government in Trinidad, Conspiracy Against the People, and I Used to Live in Heaven, Letters to My Granddaughters, which will be the first, second, and then this is the third book.
All right, there you go, viewers. I am certainly excited about it. So hopefully you all are too, and you need to see that library auditorium packed out for this. Let's embrace our local authors. And Mr. Leasing, yeah, he has some good things for us here in Tobago. So thank you, Mr. George. Thank you, Mr. Leasing, for being with us. Happy World Press Freedom to you both, and to the public of Trinidad and Tobago and the wider Caribbean. Thank you all for viewing, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Good morning.